One interesting thing about me is that my father was a commercial fisherman, a shrimp boat captain, like on Forrest Gump. And so when I was about in fourth grade, he said, "Hey son, it's time for you to start working." And so my whole growing up was on the back deck of a shrimp boat from fourth grade all through college. So I got to know a lot of pretty salty commercial fishermen. A lot of the caricatures are true, but one interesting thing about this group of guys is that I don't think I've ever known any group that cares more deeply about nature and creation more than them. After all, they spent days and weeks and sometimes months out on this boat in the middle of the ocean, and it was not just the things that you would think they would care about. They cared about all parts of creation. Of course, the fun porpoises that would play in the swells of the boat as we were going out were great, but also the glowing alligator eyes, and of course the fish and the shrimp and turtles and all the things. They really loved these things deeply, intimately. Of course, it was their livelihood, but it was a part of them. Also, of course, the commercial fishing industry is highly regulated. There's days and seasons and times you can fish and what size nets you can use, and even there's these famous turtle excluder devices that kick out the turtles and keep you from catching the turtles. Really interesting thing to me growing up was that the people who had the most say about this regulation were oftentimes the furthest away. So my dad and his buddies who lived on the water, their voice didn't carry much weight. It was the guys in Atlanta who lived in a high-rise who got to make the rules for what the commercial fishing industry should be like. You may know commercial fishing in southeast Georgia, where I grew up, is a dying industry. There's not many folks who can still do this. Part of this is overregulation and the role of imported fish and shrimp and those kind of things. And even as we got where my dad was done about 7 or 8 years ago, when we tried to sell his boat, we couldn't sell it. We wound up having to give it away. I think if my dad were still around, he'd say that the folks who smell like fish and shrimp should probably have a little weightier voice in the rules and regulations related to the industry, not the guys who live in the concrete jungle, right? That is, the folks who are the most intimately connected to a thing, that they should have the loudest say in how that thing is regulated and run, not the folks who are the furthest away. Thank you for listening to this story about my growing up. I hope it helps you as you think through some of the issues in environmental communication.